Hey everybody, it's Tatiana with Back to Facts, and I want to talk about Cuba. Now, I'm not a complete expert on Cuba at all, but I have made observations and I've paid attention to the whole issue of Cuba for quite a while. Since I was in college and I was taking Latin American literature, I had a teacher who was sympathetic toward the communist cause. And so she would talk about the interference of the United States and United Fruit Company, which was, part of the whole capitalist oligarchy in the United States. And they had influenced things since the 1800s. So I learned a lot about the manipulation that unscrupulous people in the United States were exacting upon the nations of Latin America and the Caribbean. And it wasn't just Haiti or Cuba, it was the Dominican Republic, it was Panama, so we could build the Panama Canal. They created a whole nation from Colombia. They had a whole secession movement, and this was basically plotted and planned by business owners in the United States, along with apparently Teddy Roosevelt's agreement. Let me just say that I didn't just take her word for it, okay? For many years, I researched the situation, and there were multiple reports of this kind of thing happening in Latin America and the Caribbean, as well as the Middle East, Italy, pretty much everywhere. Africa, Democratic Republic of the Congo, which used to be called Zaire, was the Belgian Congo. Right when President Kennedy took office, apparently there was an assassination by the CIA of Patrice Lumumba. He was a leftist, okay? But this is what happens, is that we want to see people that we can control. Most of the time, they're not leftists, they're rightists. They are kind of the oligarchy. But sometimes the people will get to decide and bring someone in power, but usually the pendulum swings to the left, and that's supposedly an excuse for the United States to come in and topple them. Now, Cuba is a very interesting case. Fulgencio Bautista was the U.S.'s puppet. He had a close relationship with the United States. It had a lot to do with sugar and the sugar production, which basically the multinationals or the United States corporations wanted to control. Cuba in the 50s was a really amazing place because it was free flow of goods and information because we had someone that was friendly to the United States. Is that wrong? No, but it seems there's a pattern of the corrupt in our government wanting to control these nations far more than they should be controlling any sovereign nation. And it's this weird control freak type of attitude that they don't understand psychology. They don't understand how to persuade, how to inspire, how to motivate people or be friends with them, make deals in their best interest. It's just this weird, bizarre, almost socially inept way of dealing with every country on the planet. It's like the CIA is populated by a bunch of people who have no emotional intelligence. And what I don't get is how they perpetuate this attitude and this policy through Republican administrations, Democrat administrations. I mean, it really doesn't matter. I was very invested in, the Democrats are right, for a while, only because the Iraq War was so stupid and George W. Bush was so stupid. But was I a Democrat? No, I never became one. But then the pendulum shifted and the Democratic Party began to shift more toward the middle and the right and be supportive of our interventions everywhere, as, we saw under Barack Obama. But there was a lot of misinformation like, Syria, we just can't do anything about it. I don't know where they're getting their weapons, but we can't do anything about it. What I'm trying to say is we have to separate out we, the United States, from we, the people. The United States government and its rogue elements have been wreaking havoc around the globe for a very, very long time. And this is from open sources. This is not conspiracy theory at all, okay? You just go to a library and you look up U.S. influence in Latin America and you will get all of this information. Problem is, the influential people aren't listening. So now I want to talk about the embargo. In Cuba, it's called el bloqueo, or the blockade. Here is how the blockade started. I am not satisfied with the blockade starting under Fulgencio Bautista in 1958 because he was our puppet and it made no sense to block arms sales there if we wanted to defeat Castro. It was a revolution which was definitely due. because Batista was corrupt and there was an illusion of the free flow of goods and freedom. But that's just because they were doing what we wanted. And so they got American cars. We had American companies refining oil over there for them. So when the Cuban Revolution happened in January 1959, supposedly the Eisenhower administration was friendly. What I'm thinking is they were probably just wary, but not doing anything. Then, all of a sudden, for reasons unknown, the United States blocked the sale of oil to Cuba. I don't know if it was ideologues that got a hold of things in Congress, or it seemed that Eisenhower had blocked the sale of petroleum. Planes and airlines stopped flying to Cuba. So Cuba was receiving oil from the Soviet Union. And apparently the American-owned refineries in Cuba refused to refine the oil from the Soviet Union, whereupon Fidel nationalized the refineries without buying them, without compensation. So this is viewed as a great injustice. Obviously, these companies had investments there, but I would submit that you've got to understand how much exploitation was really going on. And not only with oil refineries, paying people very little, cutting their costs, controlling the regulations in that country, making them more lax. This also happened with the agrarian situation with sugarcane and other products that were being grown in Cuba. So I feel like it was basically these companies couldn't do what they wanted there anymore. Kind of like when Jovenel Moïse, the president of Haiti, who was just assassinated, he had terminated the electricity contracts from the oligarchs in his nation that weren't even bringing electricity to the people. So in a way, I feel like Castro was, he was trying to basically kick out the corruption from the United States. And obviously there were a lot of corrupt people in Cuba too, but this is where the people become divided. It's basically you got the right in the United States, including Cuban dissidents, saying that communism is evil and it is the whole reason that Cuba is suffering and not doing well economically. Then you have people on the left, like AOC, saying the embargo is inhumane. At some point, I'm not sure when, maybe in the 60s, they decided to say that, okay, the United States can export food and medicine to Cuba. In the recent past, the EU has been Cuba's biggest trading partner, which makes me think that this whole embargo thing is just kind of a window dressing, lip service. Now, does that mean the embargo should be lifted? Right now, no. If they're receiving food and medicine, obviously Cuba is not benefiting from the commerce that would really rev up their gross domestic product and bring up-to-date automobiles there. When you are on the bad side of the United States, regardless of your form of government, unfortunately, that forces you into the hands of a very few list of nations. Venezuela is now one of those. China, Russia, North Korea. The discussion about the blockade or embargo is actually designed to deflect from what's really going on there, which is, it is a brutal communist regime. What is causing the suffering? Both the embargo and the communist regime. The communist system tends to produce brutal, totalitarian domination of the people. The effort and the attempt to make everyone the same is pretty debilitating to a robust system of merit. Also a lot of propaganda and groupthink where people just keep their heads down and stick to what they can do to survive. Then people say, well, it's inhumane not to help your poor. Absolutely, it's inhumane. And it's funny, the safety net is actually something that's pretty big in the United States. The problem is, those who want to keep wages low are actually the ones that are pushing this idea of socialism now. They're all in it together because basically they don't trust the people to make good decisions in a free market. Instead of having regulators that really are doing their jobs, everyone's cozy, it's all cronyism, it's corruption. And those who are talking about democratic socialism are being disingenuous because they know very well corruption. And I'm not just saying that, I've looked into it. The agencies that are supposed to regulate and monitor big business, they haven't made any kind of big bust, like a real one. since the late 80s, early 90s. And that's just the way they want it. So the whole system is corrupt. When you hear people just obsessively talking about the blockade, the embargo, and how it's inhumane, remember there are details that you don't know. The embargo actually is there to try and get the Cuban government to meet certain demands as far as human rights for their people. Now that I'm on board with. That incentive, conditioning, I do A, you do B, I do X, you do Z. It's like being a parent. You don't want to reward being a brutal dictatorship to your citizens with complete and full trade status. Oh, wait, we're doing that with China. Funny little tidbit I saw also is that Cuba is part of the World Trade Organization. So I'm more inclined to think this is a red herring, blaming the troubles in Cuba on the embargo, just like what Hugo Chavez did in Venezuela, and now Nicolás Maduro is doing that also. He's claiming that everything that's happening in Venezuela, the mass exodus, the starvation, the measles outbreaks because of malnutrition, it's all happening because the United States is blockading them. This is why I share complete facts. Every time something comes up into the news cycle, we need to look into all of the facts about the situation. And the history is very important too, because we see patterns. So that's why I'm here. That's why I tell you this Cuban blockade or embargo situation is not the right issue in which to be framing what's going on in Cuba right now. If Cuba was truly, truly suffering, and the leadership was not having a nice, luxurious life, they would abide by what Amnesty International or human rights organizations are saying they need to abide by. But right now, it is really tough to live in Cuba. And it has been for a very long time. You have to get up super early and wait in line just to get bread. It's the same thing that happened in the Soviet Union. That's all. Those are my complete thoughts. Please share your opinion in the comments. Tell me what you think. And keep calm and share complete facts. Talk to you soon. Bye.